Good afternoon, everyone. So after talking a little about scatter plots correlation yesterday and going over some graphing techniques from the calculators, what we're going to do now is just kind of review line of best fit by hand and show you a slightly better technique. Okay, so technology is great. If you do need to do it by hand, okay, this is like a slightly superior way to do it from how you may have done it before. Okay, so you're going to use scatter plot, so you're going to need a piece of graph paper. There should be either some, probably on the side shelf, near where the polka dot box is, okay, or maybe on my desk. There should be some graph paper there if you don't have your own. Okay, even if you print it off the note, and I'm not sure it's exactly the same as this one, okay, please grab a piece of graph paper, go through this process so you understand how it works. Okay, so I would ask that you pause the video for a moment and allow the class to make their scatter plot and line of best fit. So not line of best fit, but make the scatter plot so we're ready to go. One quick thing to note before you do that, okay, the first year on that graph is 1924, so you don't have to start at 0 and set it all up, right? Start at like 1920, leave some space, and you're good to go. So leave it with you for a couple minutes, and then come back, and we'll resume. Okay, so now you're back, and here is the scatter plot that I lovingly created earlier there. Okay, if yours doesn't look exactly like this, like it's, stretched somewhat or not as stretched, okay, that's totally fine, but it should have the general shape, right? We got the first 5 dots kind of in a line, and then there's a bit of a jump after that. Okay, so the question is, if I want to do a line of best fit, how do I do that? So some things you may have talked about in the past would be, say, oh, well, try to make it balanced, go through as many points as possible, even amounts above below the line. Okay, so we're going to go through a technique that kind of makes that a little easier to do. I mean, this is a small data set, so it's not too bad. If you had a lot more dots, okay, this could help you with that balance part. Okay, so underneath this graph, I'm going to write some steps. Okay, so here's how you create a median line. Okay, so step 1 is to divide the data into 3 equal groups, or as close to equal as you can. Three equal groups. Okay, and the first and the third group should be the same size. Okay, so if we scroll back up to our list here, okay, we have 10 entries. Okay, so 10 divided by 3 is 3 1/3. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 groups of 3 and 1 group of 4 to equal 10. So the 2 groups of 3 need to be the ones on the outside. So I'm going to split up my data here, okay, and I'm going to split up my data there. Okay, if there were, say, 11 entries, I would do 4 and then 3 and then 4. So the first and the last are the same size. Okay, step 2. Find the medians of both columns in each interval. Grade points. Okay, these are going to be the median points. Okay, so let's go back up to the top again. And again, don't forget, pause the video as you need to. If people need to copy stuff down, it's fine. We'll move on. Okay, in my first list, my years are in order. Okay, so middle is here. Okay, and when I look at my 3 numbers, 15, 17, 18, okay, the middle number is 17.1. No big deal, and I already have that point, but I'm going to emphasize it here. So this is my first median point, which is already on the graph. Okay. for the next group, okay, I've got 4 years. So the middle would be halfway between 1928 and 1929. Okay, so that is going to be 1928 and a half. Okay, on the other side, okay, my numbers happen to be in order. So my median is going to be halfway in between 20.8 and 23.0. Okay, so it's 22.05. So I'm going to go over to 1928 and basically a tiny, tiny bit over 22. So right about there. Okay, there's my second point. Okay, my third point. Okay, I have 1932, and my 3 numbers are not in order here, right? 25, 21, 23. So my median of those 3 numbers is the 23. That's the one in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to be creating another new point here at 1932 and 23.3. My last one. Okay, I've got those. Okay, so now that I have those 3 points, this is step 3. Create a line of best fit with the points in step 2. Okay, so using those kinds of guidelines, try to keep it balanced, running in between them. Okay, my line of best fit might look something like that. Okay, running in between those. Okay, so that's how I do a median line. And I only use those 3 green X's to create that line. I ignored the rest of the data and just use those 3 points. Okay, so again, if you get a huge set of data, this kind of simplifies the process. You can take a large cluster and bring it down to just 3 points to make your line the best fit. All right, so we've got that graph. How do we get the equation? Well, we are going to go back to your lovely grade 9 education, and we're going to do this manually. So the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Okay, so all I really have to go on is the graph. Okay, in this case, the way I've drawn mine, it kind of hits these 2 points here, okay, which are at 1927 and 1928. So I could probably just use those, okay, and now I get a pretty reasonable approximation of what's going on. Okay, if I wasn't touching any points, I could just find points that look kind of nice. Like looking on my grid, I seem to be right here at 1924 and 17. And maybe I could pick, is there another nice one? Not quite, okay. But yeah, you're just trying to find 2 points on your line and use that. So I'm going to use the ones that I can see, which again are at, that was 25, 26, yeah, for 27 and 28. So for my slope, it's going to be 20.8 minus 19.6 over 1. Okay, so here we go. So my slope, 20.8 minus 19.6 over 1928 minus 1927. So that is 1.2 over 1. So my slope is about 1.2. Okay. To get my equation, I go to y equals mx plus b. Okay, I'm going to sub in my slope, 1.2, and a point that I already know. So let's say we take the first one. I had 1927 and I had 19.6, and I'm going to solve that for B. Okay, and I get a whopping negative 2,292.8 is equal to B. So therefore, my median median lines equation is about 1.2x minus 2292.8. Okay, done. So just using those skills from grade 9 to get the line of best fit. Okay. Now, you may be sitting there going, wait a second, that y-intercept looks ridiculous. Where did that come from? Or why is it so large and negative? Because when I go back to my original graph, it looks like it's going to hit at about 15. Okay, so what's the deal here? Well, the thing you have to remember here is y-intercept is when x equals 0, and that's not what this graph is showing right now. Right? There's a huge gaps on both sides. Okay, so for comparison's sake, if this is on the smartboard, right, the year 0 is probably somewhere hanging in space outside of the school building. Okay, if you follow the line all the way over. Okay, so this line has to go an awfully long way back to get to the y-intercept, which is why the value is so ridiculously large and negative. Okay. A way around that, okay, if you don't like that, would be to relabel these and say, instead of using 1924, 1925, just call them 24, 25, 26, and that would shorten it up a little bit. Okay, you're saying that year 0 is going to be the same as 1900. So that's the way you can get around it. Okay. Next thing we're going to talk about is what's called residuals. Okay, and this is sort of related to correlation. Okay, they're just the vertical distance between a data point and the line of best fit. So the purpose of this is to give you a visual representation of how far the points are from the line of best fit. Okay, so how we do this is we just go point to point, we measure, physically measure, maybe with a ruler, the distance from the from the point to the line of best fit, and then we replot that distance against the x-axis. So to give you an idea of what that is, I'm just going to do the first couple of points to show you what it is, and then you can finish that off. Okay. So if I go back to my plot, okay, and we'll scroll down a little bit here. Okay, my first point, okay, has this distance, right? It is that far below the line of best fit. So I go to my x-axis and I try to go the same distance again and plot a point. Okay, so same distance away from the x-axis. Okay, my next point was this median point. It's not quite as far away, so I go a little less. I'm just transcribing it. It's the same distance below the x-axis that it is from the line. Okay, for some of these points, like this point right here, it's pretty much on the line of best fit, so we'll just go on the x-axis because they're right on the line. Okay, and that's all it is, right? The ones that are below the line of best fit will be below, the ones that are above are above. So it's just a visual way, okay, to see where my points are at. Right? Next one is about a square above, about a square and a half above. I said I wouldn't do this, but now here I am doing this. That's way below. And that's a little below. Okay, that's all it is. Okay. We can also do this with a graphing calculator. So if you don't have them already, I would invite you to go get those right now. Okay, and right, you learned how to fill stuff in yesterday, so take a moment and fill this data in to the calculator, and then maybe pause the video here and rejoin when you're ready to go. Okay, so if you're back, here's the data. Okay, you have to go through the process to get the line of best fit. Okay, we'll do median median line, because that's what we're talking about. So I'm going to go stat, and I'm going to go over to calc, and I'm going to pick med for median median. Okay, and I also need to tell the calculator where to store that if I want to see it. So if you might recall from your appendices, you press the vars button, and you scroll over to yvars, and you pick function and y1, so I can store it in there. I hit enter. Okay, it gives me an equation, okay, which you'll notice is different from ours, but okay, I mean, it's not the most accurate thing to draw, especially with a thick smartboard marker. Okay, so to do the residual plot, okay, what I'm going to actually first, let's set up, no, we'll do that first. Okay. I'm going to go back into my data, so we'll go into stat and then edit. I'm going to scroll over to L3, okay, and then I believe I have to go into list. Okay, so second and stat. You see it says resid at the bottom here. Okay. Okay, and it won't be there if you didn't do your line of best fit and store it. Okay, so but there's resid. I press enter, and it gives me all my residual values, right? Below, 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 pretty much on, and so on. Okay, finally, if I want to graph all of this, okay, I would go to second and y equals for a stat plot. Okay, let's see them both. So I'm going to do two plots here. Okay, my first plot, I'm just going to leave the way it is and just turn it on. Okay, for my second plot, I'm going to go back to the top and scroll over. Okay, and I'm just going to scroll down and change this list. So my residuals were in L3. So second and 3 changes it to L3. Okay, and I'll change the symbol so I can maybe see them a bit better. Okay, and finally, to display it all, I'm going to press the zoom button and then go to zoom stat. It didn't show me the residuals. I must have forgotten to turn that plot on. Okay, plot 2 is on, and let's do that again. There, okay, so up here you can see the data and the median median line, and down here is the residual plot showing that information. Okay. Again, if that went way too fast, feel free to rewind the video, okay, and take it a little bit slower, and that would be fine. Okay. So that's how you do median median line. Okay, on your current assignment, that's one of the questions, right? Graph your data by hand and do median median line. Okay, so now you know how to do that. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday.